This is Rafah. It is in the south of the Gaza Strip. To its north is Khan Yunis. To its south is Egypt. The North Sinai Governorate, if I must be more specific. Rafah shares a border with Egypt. Rafah is also the only city in Gaza that the Israeli military has not entered. This may change any moment now. All signs are pointing at an imminent and immediate invasion of Rafah. Number one, Israel has started air raids in Eastern Rafah. Number two, Egypt has raised the military level of preparedness in northern Sinai. Egypt, in fact, has built a fortified buffer zone near its border with Rafah. The third sign is the collapse of the ceasefire talks. Now, these talks were held in Cairo over the weekend. Hamas sent a delegation. Israel skipped. Hamas demanded an end to the war. It said Israeli hostages held in Gaza will be freed if the war ends. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu outrightly denied. Let me quote what Bibi said. "We are not prepared to accept a situation in which the Hamas brigades come out of their bunkers, take control of Gaza again, rebuild their military infrastructure, and return to threatening the citizens of Israel in the settlements surrounding the southern mountains in all parts of the country." What is it that Netanyahu is prepared for then? Is it the invasion of Rafah? And here's sign number 4, evacuation orders. That's right. The Israel military has told Palestinians living in Eastern Rafah to evacuate immediately. People are reportedly being sent text messages. They are getting phone calls. Flyers are being dropped. Warnings are also being broadcast on television, all reading, evacuate immediately. The IDF says the order applies to around 100,000 people. The question is, where will these people go? Is there any safe zone in a war zone? In Gaza, at least, there are none. Al-Mawasi is where the IDF is asking the evacuees to take refuge in. But the UN aid agency says this place is not suitable. It does not even meet the basic needs. The Palestinians in Rafah are already living in dire conditions. Many of them have moved 4 to 5 times since the war started. Must they move all over again? And why does Netanyahu want to invade Rafah? At the start of the war, the Israeli Prime Minister had pledged to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth. Israel is not close. IDF claims there are 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah. Where is the guarantee that an invasion of Rafah will mean the end of these battalions? Hamas has said that Rafah operation will not be picnic for the IDF, adding that its fighters, led by the Al-Qassam brigades, are ready to defend themselves. Next question. Whom does the Rafah invasion actually benefit? Who has a greater interest in the conflict now? Sure, Hamas provoked the war with its October 7 attacks. It launched an assault, killed 1190 Israelis, took hundreds of others hostage. But it is 6 months now. Nearly 35,000 people have died in Gaza, and they are mostly women and children. The war should have ended by now, and it has not, because peace does not favor Netanyahu's political interest. Bibi is facing pressure at home. And as per the latest survey by Israel Democracy Institute, only 15% of Israelis want Netanyahu to keep his job after the war. Only 15%. In other words, if Netanyahu is to keep his job, the war must go on. And this also explains why Netanyahu has been talking about invading Rafah for weeks now. He has previously also said that Rafah will be invaded regardless of whether Israel and Hamas reach a ceasefire deal. Now, what are the chances Netanyahu sabotaged the ceasefire talks and he will now use the failure of the talks as an excuse to invade Rafah? You see, Netanyahu is also facing pressure from the opposition. Opposition leaders like Yair Lapid criticized Bibi on the platform X. You know what Lapid said? Netanyahu must do everything to bring back the hostages. Hamas, for that matter, says it will continue the ceasefire talks. Hamas spokesperson Abdul Latif Al-Qanu said, and I'm quoting here, "We will continue the negotiations positively and with an open heart." What about Netanyahu? Today, Israel is marking Holocaust Remembrance Day. The sound of a 2-minute siren brought Israel to a standstill. In Jerusalem, Netanyahu attended the wreath-laying ceremony at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. During that ceremony, Netanyahu said, and I'm quoting, "If Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone." Does Israel have a choice? Even Israel's closest ally appears to have had enough. In a first, the United States has stopped a weapon shipment meant for Israel. This is a story Axios broke, that the Biden administration put a hold on a shipment of US-made ammunition that was meant for Israel. This happened last week. The question is, did Joe Biden cave in the face of student protests? Student protests that began in US campuses have jumped borders, by the way. Today, students in Bangladesh held an anti-Israel rally. Students in Oxford and Cambridge have also set up protest encampments. So did the Biden administration stop the arms shipment following pressure from campuses? Or did Netanyahu do the job with his lack of interest in peace? Last week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to Netanyahu that a major military invasion of Rafah would force the United States to publicly oppose Israel. What's more, it would negatively impact the relations between the U.S. and Israel. Egyptian officials also have warned Israel that the invasion of Rafah could trigger a refugee crisis. It could force Palestinians to flock to the Sinai, and this would basically impact relations between Egypt and Israel. The European Union's top official, Josep Borrell, has called Israel's evacuation order unacceptable. Here's his posts on the platform X. The French embassy in Israel, meanwhile, says that the French President Emmanuel Macron has spoken to Netanyahu. He has also reiterated his opposition to the Rafah offensive. And as I speak, there is utter chaos and confusion in Rafah. The situation is desperate. People in the thousands are taking the road. Palestinians say they do not know where to go. The international charity Islamic Relief has said that Palestinians will inevitably die as a result of the Rafah evacuation. The death toll in Gaza is nearing 35,000. Over 78,000 others have been injured.
The people are all dead. What do they want from us? What do they want from us? God is our suffice and the best disposer of our affairs.
The Israeli occupation told people to go to Rafah and that it is a safe area. Today, they're telling us to get out of Rafah. Where will the people go? Where will all these crowds go? 1.5 million or 2 million civilians. Where will they go? Should they go to the sea?
Now, these are questions that Netanyahu should ideally be answering. Is there any safe zone in this war zone? But does Netanyahu even care? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.